Armut, thank you so much for joining me after this game. Fantastic game from you guys. How was it from your side in Iceland? Because we saw a build-up on social media, Perks throwing some banter over here, you also responding, but how was it? Were you hyped about the matchup against C9?
Yeah, I mean, it was E versus NA, so we were all hyped about it because, I mean, because of the fans, the players are also hyped to win and to represent our, like, to represent the EU. It was not that fun, to be honest, the game, because it was one-sided. I couldn't even do anything. I felt sad. Yeah. It was boring game for me.
Boring game? Well, not a boring game to watch, at least. But why did it seem so simple? Okay. I saw some shenanigans happening around the Scuttle Crab, bot and top side. Did you think that the game was just done after this and that you couldn't drop the lead you had?
I think our draft was like just superior, to be honest. Okay. I mean, they had Kindred mid lane with Kalista ADC. I think their draft was not optimal, to be honest. Mm-hmm. And after Udyr gets 3 versus 3, like triple kill topside, and then he went to bottom and he just spamming kills. Like, yeah, Udyr just snowballed so hard this game, so it was kind of game over for them. All
right. Well, before the game, why did you identify as Cloud9's weaknesses that you could maybe trigger to just get the advantage?
That's a really good question. I don't know. We didn't say like, okay, Cloud9 is really weak with that. I mean, but like the game was so one-sided from the early game that we didn't need to use anything, to be honest.
All right, well, focusing on your performance now. 2-0 after the first day of the Rumble stage. I know you had some issues after the group stage. Do you think everything is in motion now for Mad Lions?
I mean, it's much better now, but I still don't think it's like we are still good to go. Like we still need to improve a lot. I think like we used to be a little better than this, I think. Yeah, so we need much time to get back how we are.
Much time? I don't know.
But we are still not bad.
Okay, I don't know if you have much time though, Armut, because you're going to face off against RNG tomorrow, and they're still undefeated at MSI. Any first words about this matchup and how you can take them down, maybe?
I mean, I think their group was like not so hard. I'm not saying our group was giga, that's why we lost, but like I think their group stage part was like not that hard. They just played with these two same teams, and they were 8-0 against them. I think they're a really good team, but I think we can win.
You think you can win? Wow, strong words again from the team. Well, thank you for the interview, Armut. Congrats on winning against C9 today, and good luck tomorrow against RNG.
Thank you so much.
And Sjokz, back to you in Cooldown. Yay, thank you.
Thank you.
Go. Dive. Yes! Woo! We dive him. Nice.
Thank you very much, Laure. Nice to hear a check in there with the team comms for that last dive. And welcome everyone to Cooldown. I'm Sjokz, joined by Ender and by Dagda. And a very fun interview with Armut. And I hope that a lot of people are getting to know kind of why we fell in love with the Mad Lions over here in Europe. But when we get to the game, it sucks. I never know how to talk about these games that go so haywire in the beginning because you feel like it's over before it really begins.
Honestly, C9 have to be so unhappy with the way this one went because the game really was over from this Scuttle Crab into the bot lane play, like Armut was saying. And honestly, like as an analyst trying to break down this game, I think C9 took a very poor decision to try an all-in fight in the river. Blabber even spent like 20 seconds sitting inside of a brush to try and come away with it and find some sort of pick attempt. But nothing after that point really felt like it mattered. And I think that, you can like sort of think like, okay, well, C9 can maybe wash this off and obviously come back tomorrow because it was just one or two bad decisions. But this is something that we saw from them in the group stage as well that cannot continue to rear its head, or C9, it's looking rough.
Yeah, I do want to talk a little bit more about, where C9 goes from here in a second. Dagda, I'd also like to jump on what Armut said in the interview. He said that he thought that the draft from C9 was suboptimal. Do you think with a different draft, they would have been able to maybe hold the fort down a bit longer and maybe try and do something, or?
Yeah, I definitely don't think the 3v3 was strong enough there for them to try and force that fight in River. And maybe if they had a stronger kind of mid-top jungle, they could have tried to make a better play towards that. But I think when you look towards the Kindred and the Kalista, that short-range composition against the amount of dive that was on the side of Mad Lions. Plus, you've also got so many tools for Armut to steal when you look across the opposite side. So I think overall, you just gave so much into the hands of Mad Lions that even if it hadn't gone that way in the early stages, it felt like still you got so many tools and so many ways and strategies that you can win this game as Mad Lions.
It's always interesting with teams that like to flex a lot because it comes to a level when you're like, okay, but was the flex worth it? And I think we will never know because of the way that early game went, right? Because we could never really see the team plan that was meant to be fielded on the Rift.
Honestly, like, I'm not gonna like harp on Perks for like this Kindred mid lane pick. Ultimately, like, he sees some value in it. I don't personally see that value. Like, I don't see like, is Blabber supposed to like leash him the early Scuttle Crab so he can get the mark? Are they supposed to like duo invade these sorts of things? And like in the Lucian matchup, even though technically he got a solo kill, he missed like 30 CS underneath tower. Lucian, the only time he did kill him, it was diving there too. So I'm not a believer in the Kindred, but I'd love to hear what Perks thinks it's good.
Yeah, me too. I mean, and again, that's what we were talking about before the game. They do dare to craft a composition and go for it for where C9 goes from here. I think after what we saw in the group stage and how they started there and how they were able to turn it around, I think this is an even more clear-cut case of, well, in that RNG game, if we do that differently, and in this game, if that doesn't happen in the early game, you're talking about different games. So it's a bad start, but they can definitely come back from this.
Ultimately, the RNG game was so close, and I believe that C9 were on pace to win that. I think they were going to take every team fight from that point onward. So today, it is a 0-2 start for C9, but this game against Mad, wipe it off, and the game against RNG, you can take that home and say, look, there was a point where we could have legitimately won this game, and I don't think C9 are a 0-win team.
No. Dagda, what do you think about kind of the unlucky events, I would say, for C9 today?
Yeah, I agree with Ender. I think that we'll see C9 improve as they go throughout. I just wish they try and take the early game a little bit slower. It feels like there's been a couple of times now we've seen them kind of go for these coin flip plays in the early stages, and certainly kind of playing around Blabber. And there's no reason to. We've seen them being able to take team fights in the late game against teams like Damwon, and I just wish I could see them go towards that point where they're actually like, cool, let's come into this mid game, we're able to play our style, work off the tempo advantages that Blabber can try and get, and then play through our strong team fights instead.
Okay, we'll see how that evolves as we pull up the standings here. We see that RNG and the Mad Lions are 2-0 so far. Yeah, for the Mad Lions, it's really weird because I have the feeling that we still haven't seen like everything we need to see from them. Again, because it goes both ways, right? In a game where you get such a big advantage in the early game, it's almost unthrowable. What do you really take from that game?
Nothing.
Yeah.
I legitimately, it's kind of how I felt like Mad Lions for a while now, is it is very hard to get a discernible read on the team because one day they're the best team on the planet, the next team they're the worst team on the planet. Like, and individual players can also have like very high highs, very low lows. Like Humanoid, yeah, he solo kill Perks. He was also just sprinting it down, completely limit testing, having a good time in that last game too. So ultimately for me, I think the Mad Lions are a strong team here. I think they are top 3 currently, but they could very easily show up on the day and be the best team or the worst team.
Yeah, Dagda, what do you think about RNG's showing so far? Obviously the win versus Damwon, and then later also the backdoor win versus Cloud9. You're probably happy, man.
Yeah, definitely the Damwon victory very much feels nice, and I know a lot of the guys here, at least on the production staff, are cheering hard for that win. So it's always good to pick up the victory there against the LCK. And I mean, yeah, Cloud9, they had some really strong team fights, and I do hope they bounce back. But it really does feel like now I think people are starting to realize just how strong RNG is, and they should be considered an S-tier pick in this tournament alongside the likes of Damwon.
And speaking about Damwon, earlier today, Laure checked in with Khan to talk about Damwon's day one. Let's take a look.
Khan, thank you so much for joining me. 1-1 for Damwon Kia so far in the Rumble stage. And some people have been saying that you haven't performed to the expectations maybe, but the other people who are used to seeing you in the LCK tend to say that you often need this one team fight after the early game to just get back on tracks. What is your take on that when you compare it to the performance you had at MSI so far?
네, 우선은 인터뷰 정말 감사드리고요. 1승 1패를 달성하셨는데 사실은 이번 MSI를 통해서만 담원을 보아오신 분들은 조금 담원이 약간 조금 불안한 조금 기대에 못 미치는 경기력을 보여주는 것 같다라는 말씀을 하시는데 또 LCK부터 챙겨보신 분들은 담원이 원래 초반에는 그렇게 강하게 앞서 나가지 않더라도 이제 한타 한 번으로 좀 기세를 강하게 잡아가면서 경기를 이기는 팀이다라고 말하는 분들도 있습니다. 이런 점에 대해서 어떻게 생각하시는지 특히나 이제 이 MSI에서 보여준 그 활약에 조금 연관지어서 좀 어떻게 생각하시나요?
일단 아무래도 이제 패치 내용이 이전과는 많이 바뀌었기 때문에 이제 그에 관해서 일단 해석에 관해서도 되게 차이점이 있었어요. 그래서 일단 그런 쪽에서도 맞추고 일단 저희 컨디션이 다 그러니까 이제 몸 컨디션 말고 게임 컨디션이 아직 완전히 다 좋은 게 아니다 보니까 이제 또 그쪽에 있어서도 애로 사항이 생겼던 것 같고 그래서 좀 원래 저희가 추구하던 게임과는 살짝 방향이 다르게 흘러가고 있지만은 뭐 결과적으로 일단 이길 수 있는 팀이 되기 위해서 일단 계속 많이 연구하고 더 열심히 해야 될 것 같아요.
So first off, I think we have gone through a lot of different changes after this new patch, and also we were having a bit of a different point of views for how we playing this game. So we needed some time to find one answer. And in addition to that, I think our form was not at the best level. So I think we did have some hard time. But in order to become a winning team, I think we have to go through a lot more experiments and try harder.
Interesting. So yeah, there's some learnings that can be taken maybe from the RNG game this morning. What is your take on this game and what went wrong for you?
그러면 RNG 전에서 조금 어떤 점을 좀 새롭게 배우셨는지 어떤 점이 좀 잘 안 풀렸던 것 같나요?
RNG전 같은 경우에는 이제 되게 초반에 흐름이 저희한테 되게 많이 기울어져 있어서 좋게 게임을 풀어 나갈 수 있었는데 이제 그 과정 속에서 실수들이 좀 연달아서 나오다 보니까 또 이제 역전당해서 지게 됐는데 다음에는 이제 좀 그런 부분에 대해서 더 피드백을 하고 또 보완해서 오면은 더 좋은 경기력 보여드릴 수 있을 것 같습니다.
So in that RNG game, I think we had a solid lead and control of that game, but I think we were able to, snowball really well and close out the game. But in that process, I think we made mistakes and allowed the opponents to turn the game around. So I think we have to work on those issues, and yeah, we have to come back stronger.
Yeah, and you still have a lot of games to do so. But thinking about these next games, how strong do you think you can become before the knockout stage and the last stages of the tournament?
그러면 이제 다음 스테이지라든지 진출하기 전까지 얼마나 조금 개선되고 좀 강해진 모습을 보여줄 수 있으실 것 같나요?
일단 저희가 다음에 이제 RNG하고도 어쨌든 한 번 더 경기가 남아 있잖아요. 그 경기에서 좀 이길 수 있을 때까지 많이 올려야 되는 게 일단 목표라고 생각하고 그 목표를 이룰 수 있도록 많이 노력해야 될 것 같아요.
I think first of all, I think we have to step up to the level that we can take down RNG in the next round. So I think that will be our first goal from now on.
Yeah, taking down the favorites maybe now. We'll see about that. But Khan, thank you so much for the interview. And Jisan, thank you also so much for the translation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laure and Jisun and Khan. Dagda, quite the unique insight there into kind of Damwon's state of mind, saying, it sounds to me at least, that they haven't quite figured everything out yet. How do you look on them as a tournament favorite and the level that they are a tournament favorite compared to RNG?
Well, I think coming into this, I think I was one of the few people that actually had RNG ahead of them. Obviously, bias, LPL guy. But still, I think it's really interesting to see how they have kind of gone, hey, look, we had multiple different thoughts on how this game needed to be played. And I think we can kind of see that to a certain extent as well, where they're trying out Khan and carries in certain situations. They're going over towards the Sion a lot as well. And I think they are going to be able to figure out how this whole meta works, and specifically like whether they want kind of something that's a bit more carry orientated or maybe something a bit more supportive like the Morgana. So I think it will be a lot of kind of whacking the sheets and see what falls out, but certainly I think Damwon will eventually get to the point where they are looking just as strong as people expected.
Yeah, we will indeed see. I'm loving the idioms you're throwing out here. Tomorrow, the Rumble stage returns with day 2, and a very interesting game for Damwon. They'll get their shot at revenge versus Cloud9. Oh, Ender, that's such a great game. Because Cloud9, of course, has the upper hand over Dam1, and now we'll see what happens tomorrow.
Yeah, they got him in the recent matchup.
Yeah.
1-1 overall, so they get to play, I think, 4 games in total by the time the groups or the Rumble stage is over. Ultimately, I think this day obviously going to be very important for C9. The first game is a big challenge for them, of course, like even with the win. But then their game against Talon too, because when you look at like the sort of prospect of the tournament right now, it looks like RNG going to get out, Madline's going to get out. You'd assume Dam1 make it out too, and then who gets that 4th spot? Currently PSG in a good position with Pentanet and C9 on the outside. So that game is even more important, I believe, than their match against Dam1.
And Pentanet is overjoyed because tomorrow they get to take on RNG once again. We've got a bit of a, I want to say a running guess who is going to take down RNG as the first team.
Well,
It
they
may
got a
be
couple of
Pentanet.
tries already, and
Yeah.
it didn't go that well.
They have a
so.
lot of tape to watch, and of course later in the day, Mad Lions are up for RNG as well. Some quick thoughts about that?
That's just a good one. That's a banger. They're both undefeated. Someone's got to lose, right? And I don't know. I'm trying to think about it. Like, Mad Lion's style of attack, likely probably focusing on mid lane for Humanoid, making sure he's on something lane dominant against Cryin. I think it's a matchup that Mad Lions could win on the day. I do think Royal are the stronger team overall. But again, it feels like in this tournament, in this stage especially, there's a whole lot of variance and almost anyone can beat anyone. Almost.
Dagda, Mad versus RNG tomorrow. We won't have you here, so what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with Ender. I think especially if Karzi and Kaiser step up, we could definitely see a super interesting game there. Maybe you could end up with Mad Lions playing heavily down towards the spot lane with Alioya and getting themselves that victory over Ming in the bottom side of the map alongside Gala. But I'm still curious to see how Armut does if we start to put a lot of pressure there with Sjokz. I know he's been able to absorb some pressure in the past and it's looked really good. So I think overall there's a lot of question marks for me around that game, but I think RNG should in theory have it, but Mad Lions, you never know what they're going to bring to the table.
Best of ones. They're crazy, baby. That's all from us here in Berlin, but we'll be back tomorrow for day 2 of the Rumble stage. See you then.
When the West rose up! SK Telecom continue to rule the world